Heyo, people! Fine, I'll talk about Guardian. That being said, compared to other classes, Guardian doesn't have any complicated class mechanics. It doesn't have an extra UI element at all. Basically, it is what it says on the tin. The tank class, specializing in generating aggro and taking damage. You can play physical or lightning with the default elements on the class. I think the biggest change from the old AK is that the skill Roar does not have the drop sharing feature anymore. Given how many weeks it's been since release, I imagine this is intentional and will not be changing. You got two paths to choose from, the left side for tanking and the right side for DPS. The left side has various effects designed to help you hold aggro from mobs and reduce aggro your party members generate, but when you're running with high-powered DPS players, you will probably still struggle to hold the attention of bosses. That being only if they aren't melting anyway, but that is wisdom from the old game. Right now, content like the new Doomfire Inferno, and Skytower still does require some time for the fighting and using mechanics. So grab your defensive armor and abuse those damage, reflect, and absorb skills and keep your party members alive. When you level up the tank side, you'll gain more party member aggro mitigation power, the Roar Gather effect, and the ability to raise your defense up to 90%. The default for other classes is 80%. Onto the DPS path, which focuses mostly on lightning DPS. Basically, the only skill you gotta learn anything about is Lightning Spin Blade. I'm gonna borrow some video from the OG server here. It's not identical, but close enough, and I caught the moment I hit level 60 mastery on camera there. Before level 60 mastery, the Right Path mastery skill is a stacking lightning debuff you want to apply frequently as you fight. But after level 60, two things change. Lightning Spin Blade becomes a nuke skill with a very high cooldown, and that debuff is moved onto Mirror Shield. Except that it won't be called Mirror Shield anymore, it will be called Discard Shield. As the name implies, this is your, well, I guess we can call it burst mode. You take more damage and deal more damage, and that lightning debuff you lost on Spin Blade will be applied with all attacks instead. Neat. Note, there is no physical interpretation of Discard Shield. You will still see your shield in combat. One final note about Guardian, a couple skills show a note that says they have some def scaling as well. And while I think that's interesting, we don't have the numbers for how much scaling it has, and you'll need to build DPS for everything else in your kit if you want to deal damage, so I suppose it's just a nice bonus. Anyway, moving along, there's a good number of system changes since my last video, as well as some announcements for upcoming ones, so let's do a quick sweep of the ones I am most interested in. Level cap is now 75, and this time all the experience books I had stowed away in my inventory weren't enough to get from 70 to 75. Time to grind. And we got dungeons up to Frozenly Plains, as well as up to Doomfire Inferno. And while we're at it, the lava secret stones are not weapon stones, but hand armor stones. So, while the upgraded armor secret stones are showing in the encyclopedia, we don't have a way to make them yet. So I wonder if each dungeon from the Demon King series from now on will just be armor stones. Next up, the sweep function, which is great if you're like me and occasionally you're too busy to run solo dungeons. For 100 LP, you can claim dungeon rewards. Note that you get less of everything for using sweep, but look, if you're busy like me, it's a way to grab a little bit of dragon points and some boxes from dungeons that you could beat but don't have time or feel like doing. Especially if you're grinding a class you don't have good gear for. Yes, you can use sweep to clear while on an alt class just to farm a little mastery experience. The matchmaking system has had a few changes and will be changing again soon. The LP rewards are now limited to 25 times across your account, and in one of the coming patches we will have the LP rewards opened up to any party dungeon run, not restricted to starting it with matchmaking. In the dev letter this week, they basically said the same thing we already knew. People weren't using the matchmaking like they hoped. Basically, low-level players were forced to give up on drops and gold to get the LP that they needed for other things. Hopefully that fix drops this week, because that would be great for me when I want to run LP runs real quick in the morning before work. Skytower has been expanded to 20 floors, but I've worked every day it's been open, so I haven't had time to run it. I hear it's still very challenging, and a bit laggy though. Also, they announced they're planning to remove the cutscenes and adjust the difficulty, so watch out for that too. Eidolons can now equip gear. Sort of. Hit the fishing button twice to toggle to a new gear menu where you can equip combat gear on your Eidolon. Yes, just real normal armor sets. This is cross-account and cross-Eidolon, so just fill it up once and you're good to go. I don't know if it's worth porting a second top gear set if you're free to play and need the resources for your own main armor, but throwing your old gear set in there when you're done using it? Better than nothing. And lastly, head over to your warehouse and hit the auto sort button, especially if you have a lot of Eidolon fragments, because those now stack to 100. Nice. Now for something not so nice, the fashion refinement. To me, this kinda reeks of pay to win, as it's actually not free to play accessible at all right now. You need to dismantle orange tier costumes for the sigils needed to use the refinement potion, which is then only available in the cash shop. So that means I can't show it in action because I don't have enough gold to buy that off of cash players, but I'll destroy this hat for you to show how that works at least. At least I keep the archive points for it. On the plus side, they're not locking the stats to the outfits, making it easier to swap costumes without needing to have to reshuffle again, but having it locked to destroying costumes and the cash shop? Big negative in my book. And of course, a lot of other stuff happened over this last month. Wizards, as well as a few other classes, got tweaks. Though for Wizard, it was a significant nerf for Ice Wiz. We actually had a week of compensation for that. The others weren't as significant. And yeah, there were various other small things like fortification being sped up and gold being added to the fort window so you can watch as it vanishes. So it's up to you whether or not you want to read through all of the patch notes to catch every tiny little detail that I didn't think was worth throwing in here. That being said, the dev letter is worth a read. I touched on a couple things in it already, but they also announced they're going to mess with the way that pen and tenacity work, and release the formula for it, so that's cool. And they're going to make the Otherworld instances start at 75, not 60. They've also said that from now on, instances may not be the same levels as before, just in general. And while I was starting to think that they were lying or forgot about what they said about changing mechanics in dungeons to make them less repetitive, it seems like they may change how the mechanics work in the Otherworld versions, so we're gonna have to keep an eye on that. Hold them to it. Oh, and since I mentioned it, they published the exact damage formula as well recently, and just the other day I came across a damage calculator website. Since I'm so bad at min-maxing, and probably really can't help if you have super detailed questions about it, I'm gonna add a link to that in the description too. Hopefully when the pen formula is dropped, they'll add that in. And finally, now that I have made this video, they are clear to release the next class this coming week. Yes, it's all because of me. You're welcome. That class will be Grenadier. Cannon. They're calling it Cannon. Of course, I'm kidding about it being my responsibility to cover a class before they can release a new one, but they also confirmed after Cannon we're getting Rangers, so is that because of me? The #1 Ranger fan? I better start preparing my dark equipment now too. But that's all for this week. I know I skipped a lot of the changes over the last month, but like I said, everything's moving so fast and I got work and stuff, so as a free-to-play I can't really push into the million gear score easily and waltz my way through all the new content. Take care, guys, and remember to have fun with games, like me. Take it easy. I'll catch you next time.